Do I have permission to throw away this
All right, I'm going to call the Kalamazoo County July 18th, 2023 Committee of the Whole to order. First on the agenda, roll call. Clerk Cox.
Commissioner DeLu,
Here.
Commissioner Gisler,
Here.
Vice Chair Hepler is absent. Commissioner Mazer here. Commissioner Morales, absent. Vice Chair Ray. Commissioner Strebs. Here. Chair Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Wheeler is absent. 6 present.
And I did get communication from the 3 other commissioners that they will be late. Commissioner Wheeler is working. She will not be here this evening. Next on the agenda, public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners. Please give us your name and address, and you have up to 4 minutes. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hello, commissioners. My sources this afternoon are the City Journal, Kay Heimowitz, and Jennifer Bilek, journalist. The reality star, Jazz Jennings, born in 2000. At age 11, he was put on puberty blockers. An implant was placed in his arm to block testosterone. At age 12, he was placed on a lifetime regimen of estrogen. In 2018, he underwent a vaginoplasty. The 17-year-old was castrated. His penis was to be used to construct a vagina. Due to the previous interventions, his penis was too small for the job. Tissue from the lining of his stomach was used to create a vagina. 4 days after the surgery, the neovagina had split apart. 2 corrective surgeries were then needed. Jazz fell into a serious depression after these surgeries. From the website PITT, Parents with Inconvenient Truths About Trans, the schools are pushing nonstop, relentless sexual politics for children. There is relentless celebration of LGBTQIT material in the school day. After school, the youngsters are absorbed with Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, Discord, Reddit, and TikTok. This nightmare has been pushed by billionaire elitists. What we see is the profit-seeking gender industry selling the abolition of sexual dimorphism. And that is the differences between male and female of the same species. They want to eliminate sexual dimorphism. From grade school curriculums to medical schools and all of our social institutions, the end goal is the creation of future markets for technological reproduction. The woman as the bearer of life is to be eliminated. The obliteration of sexual dimorphism is preparing society for reproduction to be eventually removed to the tech sector. Is humanity ready for LGBTQI plus tech babies and the full erasure of women from reproduction? This is a question asked by Jennifer Bilek. We non-elites don't want our tax dollars used for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens wishing to address the board?
Good afternoon. My name is Ann Cooper, and I live in Portage, Michigan. And the purpose of my public comment today is to voice my strong opposition to funding the YWCA Kalamazoo Reproductive Health Grant Request, which is being considered in the 2024 budget process. If funded, this program intends to use 100,000 of our precious taxpayer dollars to fund abortions and gender-affirming care. As you know, the YWCA has already spent $43,900 of our taxpayer funds in 2022 to pay for abortions and gender care under this program. This year, I propose that our dollars be allocated to support worthy pro-life causes, such as funding pregnancy resource centers, which help mothers and babies who are at risk and do not have support, or funding adoption services, or funding the YWCA services for victims of human trafficking. Recently, we celebrated the 4th of July, our Independence Day in the United States of America, and our country's birthday. This holiday commemorates the passage of our Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress on July 4th, 1776, which states that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To spend taxpayer dollars to take the lives of preborn citizens of our country, lives which our Declaration of Independence states are given by God, is, I believe, utterly contrary to the Judeo-Christian principles on which our country and our system of government is founded. July 3rd, 2023 was the 160th anniversary of the victory of the Union forces at the Battle of Gettysburg, the turning point of the American Civil War. Michigan soldiers were members of the Iron Brigade and the Union Infantry and Cavalry, which prevailed at Gettysburg and succeeded in preserving the United States of America. Thousands of lives were sacrificed to preserve our government and the protections and freedoms which it provides for all its citizens. We today are called to continue to uphold this union and government and the life-protecting principles upon which our founders built this great nation and our great state of Michigan. A CRC research poll from August 2022 found that 74% of Americans support funding pregnancy centers, including 78% of Republicans and 73% of Democrats. The American public has made its wishes clear. Please consider allocating 100,000 of our precious taxpayer dollars to pay for life-affirming services for the citizens of our county in 2024. Let's fund pro-life pregnancy centers, adoption services, and the YWCA Women's Shelter Services for Human Trafficking Victims this time. Thank you very much for your attention and the opportunity to comment. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any other citizens wishing to address the board? Can you advise us if there's any calls? And actually, could we turn off the red here? Like, thank you.
Yes,
Agreed.
we have some recorded call this evening. Dina, will you please play them?
Should we go back to the recording and maybe get some of the, maybe the accounts payable and disbursements first, and then do the recordings afterwards? Is that okay, corporate counsel? Okay, cool. Well, then that takes us into reviews of accounts payable and payroll disbursements. Finance Director Ryan.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. An accounts payable claims list totaling $9,819,203.89 is presented for review. Of this total, the Board of Commissioners is asked to approve claims totaling $9,622,381.58. Payroll disbursements totaling $2,473,138.24 are presented for July 7th and July 14th payrolls.
Questions from commissioners? I just kind of I have one comment, and that's, I'm sorry, Ryan, I think we're, one comment, and that was to the 637,000 that we're spending on the Eagle Lake, Crooked Lake, Lake level. There was a $2.1 million grant that was awarded by the state of Michigan to offset that cost, which would reduce our 12% by about $150,000, $160,000. We're asked to pay the full 637 to Texas Township. They're the ones, and I asked questions to administration and they informed me that they're the ones getting those dollars. And then that in the future, there will, depending on the earmark of the language, there would be a refund to the county of that money, that 12% of the 2.1 million. So I just wanted commissioners to be aware, we did vote in support as a body to support it. So I will support the 637 today on the claims list, but I just wanted commissioners to know that I am fully anticipating a refund check from Texas Township and that 12% amount. Okay, thank you, Ryan. All right, next on the agenda, Ryan, you're back up. Business priorities. Oh, do you want to, are we ready for the public comments? Okay, let's rock and roll with those.
This is John Burhans. I'm a Portage resident. I'm in opposition of the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund. I don't believe my tax dollars should go towards something I'm strongly opposed to and against as far as abortion, artificial contraception, and gender affirming care. God created us as he wishes, and that's the way we should end up and be. So as a Catholic, this is wrong, and I do not wish for my tax dollars to go towards this. Therefore, I'm asking for a strong vote of no by the county commissioners, and I will be checking to see that my commissioner voted no, or going forward, you'll lose my vote. Thank you.
I'm Jeanette Rubinski calling from Kalamazoo County. Please play this message at both the 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. meetings of the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, July 18. As you prepare for the off-site budget retreat scheduled for July 25, I would like to remind you that I strongly oppose giving any money to the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund. They are asking for $100,000 of taxpayer money to increase access to abortion, artificial contraception, gender-affirming care, and doula care. My reasons for opposing this funding are as follows. First, abortion proponents often use the viability argument for justifying the procedure. Just because the fetus cannot survive outside of the mother's womb, they think it's okay to kill it. They fail to acknowledge the fact that lack of fetal viability is a temporary condition. Let's suppose for a moment that a member of your immediate family were in a temporary coma and was connected to all kinds of tubes and machines without which that person would die. Would you ask the doctors to disconnect everything, let the person die, dismember it, and incinerate the parts as medical waste? I think not. Abortion is wrong for the same reason. Second is the subject of artificial contraception. I'm against it because of religious beliefs. For people who want it, it's already available through the Kalamazoo County Department of Health Family Planning Program, funded by Title $10. There's no need to spend more money to duplicate those services. Third is the subject of gender-affirming care. The average human body is made up of approximately 100 trillion cells. At birth, each cell has either 2 X chromosomes if the child is female, or 1 X chromosome and 1 Y chromosome if the child is male. That never changes, not even with cross-sex hormone treatment or gender reassignment surgery. Transgender people sometimes say that they were born in the wrong body. I know that their distress is real, but what do you think the statistical probability is that all 100 trillion cells within any given human body are wrong? Perhaps their gender dysphoria is an emotional problem, which should be treated on an emotional level instead of on a physical level. I don't want my tax dollars spent on abortion, artificial contraception, or gender-affirming care. Please do not give any money to the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund now, in 2024, or at any point thereafter. Thank you.
Yes, this is Florence Nelson calling. I'm a resident of Kalamazoo County, and I'm calling to voice my opposition to your granting a $100,000 amount of money to the Kalamazoo YWCA for their reproductive health fund to support and pay for abortions, contraception, and gender-affirming care. I am completely opposed to this idea, and I refuse to have my taxpayer dollars go for these unacceptable procedures. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stephen Reasoner, and I live in Kalamazoo County, Texas Township specifically. I am strongly opposed to using my taxpayer dollars to fund the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund grant request. And I thank you for listening and adjusting funding decisions based on taxpayer comment. Thank you.
Is that it?
Tina, did that last one cut off?
No, he was all done. That was the last pre-recorded call.
Okay, and we have no hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Ryan Post, back for the monthly financial report.
Okay, back again. Thank you. So I believe this may be the first presentation of a financial statement to the board. So I just wanted to emphasize that. And this report that was shared with administration was for the month of June. This is a report, just to kind of give you a little bit of background first before we go into numbers. This is something that we are able to run reports in our ERP Munis, and then we consolidate those and we reference Department of Treasury's account structure in terms of function, you know, general government, judicial, public safety, public works, you name it. And we also break it down by category. So that's kind of how this report is put together. It includes the original adopted budget, which will not change as we progress through each month. It includes the amended budget, so any changes that are made at each board meeting, those are included on here, as well as actuals of revenue and expenditures, uncollected or unspent balances, as well as percentages of those figures for both revenue and expenses. With this being a transition year of going from Eden software to Munis, we have different chart of accounts, different numbers. So it's a real challenge this year. What the plan will be to move forward is, as we get a year behind us, a full year, we'll be able to go back and compare prior years. So in other words, in a year from now, we'll be looking at June of 24 versus June of 23's reports. So you can kind of see what that looks like. We're not able to do that at this moment, just begun because of the changing of accounting software and the account numbers. We just don't have staff or time to do just that. But next year will be different. So with that being said, everyone, I believe, had a chance to review the monthly financial statement for June. Highlights with that, let's look at revenues. I'll kind of make some highlights, and then if the board has any questions, we'll entertain those. But when we look at the revenues, we are where we normally should be about this time of year for the circumstances. We're 50% through the year. We've got, your fees for services, you've got charges, you've got revenues from state grants. Those are where they should be, but when we start looking at obviously tax collections, there's reasons for that when the tax dollars come in, so that appears to be significantly low. So when, we look at the revenues at this point of year, we've got $81 million approximately, and we've collected 13 million. So in other words, 17% of the revenue we've collected year to date. But as we do progress, collecting that tax revenue, as well as the treasurer's office. We've been working with them very closely in terms of getting revenue batches posted to the general ledger, which does impact the revenue that's recorded to the general ledger. So it is worth mentioning there are still some revenue batches out there pending. But the treasurer's office, out of all fairness, I want to emphasize the fact that they are doing their diligence and they are getting those posted. Their priority right now is getting investments up to date, and they are very close to doing just that. So I believe what the game plan is, without stealing their thunder or speaking on their behalf, is to get caught up with the investments, and then the revenue batches are right behind that. So they're making progress with that. It is also worth sharing that next week is the budget retreat, and we will have an updated June report for administration as well as the board that will include additional revenues right now that are behind the scenes, waiting to be posted to the general ledger, that have not yet because of the treasurer's office doing their diligence. So generally speaking, that's the revenue. Expenditures, as we move on to that, we can see that, again, 50% is the target 6 months through the year. We are below that. When we look at our wages for personnel costs, we are about 47%. So that's slightly a little bit below where we should be. That's just due to vacancies we have throughout the county. The supplies is, 47%, pretty close. Our other services are 43%. Your other services are non-supply line items. So those could range anywhere from contractual services to communications to building rent. They fluctuate across the board. And then there's the last category is transfers out, and we are 83% through the year. And that's very common because as the fiscal year progresses, we're halfway through it, we're sending out transfers that were budgeted and approved by the board. So when we look at all of those four categories as a whole, we've got about $82 million of an amended budget, and we've spent 45 million. So we're 55%. Again, if we back out those transfers that are one-time transfers, that puts us more in alignment with where we should be. So that is, in summary of the revenue and expenditures at a very high level. I welcome any questions from the board this time.
Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Gissel.
Thank you, Chair. Ryan, you made some good comments. I think I understood them, but I'd like you to say it again, maybe using different words. And that is the changeover from one system of keeping the accounts to another.
Yep.
Is that progressing okay? Better than it was, several months ago? For not just the treasurer's office, but for everything you touch also.
Yeah, I would think so. And I want to respect before I arrived. So part of my understanding of the transition and moving forward with Munis as our ERP is the chart of accounts update that was mandated, And that was mandated based on each municipality's fiscal year. In our case, in Kalamazoo, it's a calendar year. So I believe it was 12/31/22. We had to have that implemented. I might be off by a year. So part of moving forward with Munis is the ERP is that took place behind the scenes. I've been a part of 2 other counties where we've not had that luxury. And there's manual work and things, it's maybe not as clean. So by this swoop, moving from Eden software to Munis, it captured that behind the scenes, and the output or the numbers that it produces is in compliance with the state of Michigan. So that's one area. For example, the finance budget used to be 101,223. Now it's 101,191. A lot of the activities or department numbers changed. So it would be a real challenge to say, okay, prior Eden and then Munis to say which is which. It would be very in-depth, a lot of detail to capture that information. Not that we can't, but it's just, you got to understand sometimes there were consolidated accounts, consolidated departments. And so you got to know the history and where to look to be able to change that or to find that. It's also worth noting that in the 23 adopted budget, when you look at the budget book, it did include the old accounts, the old funds, the old activities departments with the new ones. So that was kind of a nice crosswalk over to be transparent with those changes. So does that answer your question, Commissioner Gessler?
Yes, and if you'll humor me for one more, John, I'd appreciate it. Do you have anywhere that the state has issued a single or maybe 2-page explanation of why this change was mandated by the state of Michigan? It almost seems capricious.
I don't have any factual comments to that. Just being in this field for quite some time, I think what we've seen over the years, there's been a lot of mandated funds to be used. Recently we just saw the opioid fund 284. A couple years before that, you saw indigent defense fund 260. And the state would mandate what these funds are, but this chart of accounts has been around for years and did not include those. So that was the purpose for that part of it. And I think part of the reason for this update, and hopefully it's one and done now, was just because there were so many mandates for numbers to be used, but they weren't documented. They weren't reflected. So, CARES Act was in there as well, that funding we received. And while these new funding sources or originations, federal funding, they will continue. I would expect them to have to update this document as well. But it's been around for a while, out of all fairness. We knew this update was coming for at least a decade. And then the state, they finally made the decisions they did to move forward with a finalized document.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
And to answer your question, and Ryan, what I've been able to do with the transition from Eden to Munis software is in our commissioner's office, there's budget books from 2002 to 2022. And if you just take this is 100,000 foot level, you're not going to get down into the intricacies. But if you just take like the clerk's budget or the, buildings and grounds or different budgets, you can look and compare based on the actual hard copies of those budget books, which is crazy that we have to use these hard copies to try to transition back. But I've been able to get like a 100,000 foot level sort of grasp on different departments with those old budget books. But like literally using physical books, not any sort of software or anything.
Excuse me, the things that fill the bookshelf in there.
Correct. And it's not perfect by any means. As you said, the chart of accounts all changed. And so you have to have that roadmap, so to speak. So you're taking it from the old account and looking at the new one. And that's kind of how I've been able to look at like big scale, large trends, but I haven't been able to get down into intricacies. As you said, that would take staff, which is an incredible amount of time to get down to individual accounts. But as looking at this, I love this. This is kind of like, I appreciate you doing this. This kind of gets us in a good spot as we approach the budget season. One of the things that I wanted to, point out to other commissioners, especially in the revenue side, revenue, obviously it looks like, oh gosh, we've only collected, as Ryan said, well, taxes haven't come in. We've got some revenue sharing from the state. We've got, cannabis tax, all these other different things that are coming. Yeah, so we're just collecting a lot of that money. So that and with our equalization report, I anticipate that will be probably more than likely higher than anticipated as far as what our original budget projection was. But if you look at the day-to-day operational stuff that we're getting, user fees, licenses and permits, we're over 50%. We are going to collect more in revenue than we anticipated. I think that's fair and safe to say. Whether how much more, who knows? We'll have a better idea in a couple months. But we will be collecting more than we did anticipated in 2023 than in our budget. And then on the expenditure side, that's even better news. If you look at some of the payroll disbursements, the transfers in, transfers out, I'm assuming vast majority of that is the Justice Complex, correct?
That makes up a component, correct?
Okay, so I mean, when that project is finished, that won't be a part of our overall expenditures anymore, and we're well under 40% on a 48. What was the budget here? Expenditures $48 million spent, or $45 million spent actual. With a lot of that being transfers. We're probably come in about $2 to $3 million at least under expenditures this year. That's going to be with our revenues and our expenditures. That's going to be what I've been harping on since January 1st. That got on this board. We are creating surpluses in our Kalamazoo County government. That money will be transferred into capital improvement, will be transferred into carryover at the end of every year. But we've got to do a good job during this budget process as we foresee these expenditures and these revenues of anticipating them so that we have a better job and we can be more flexible in our role as commissioners to expend our tax dollars into programs that share our values and our concerns. So I just wanted to put that out, and thank you, Ryan, very much for this. I think this is kind of like, I look forward to this every month, to be honest with you. I think it's showing that on our expenditure side that we're keeping our budget tight, our belt tight, and on our revenue side, we're going to be more than likely over our revenues for this year. So great work. Commissioner Krebs.
Thank you, Chair. Just, two chairs' points about us having the ability to, better project expenditures and revenues. So with our escalating sort of property values in the county, tax collections have not come in yet. Do we have a sound footing to help us evaluate? We projected in the budget process what we think those collective property taxes are going to look like. But as property values are escalating pretty quickly locally, those revenues are going to overshoot our projections. Can't we understand how we help sort of evaluate when we're in conditions like that with, the housing market was so depressed for such a long time, and now the values are escalating quickly. How can we help manage that in our future budget projections?
So the response to that, Commissioner Krebs, is we work with equalization on that. Is they have a couple of reports there that they produce that tell us what the story is from a projection standpoint from their angle. We use that in finance to align the numbers, if you would, of what they foresee versus what it looks like when we start crunching those numbers. As we use that information then to share with administration in terms of, okay, based on what equalization is sharing with us, based on what we're seeing, based on percent increases, here's what those numbers show. Now with that obviously comes the trend is upward, and I will fully acknowledge that. But even talking to Director Hansen from equalization, at some point, we're it's going to be more level. We're not there yet. That's good. But it's a team discussion, equalization, finance, administration, and then from there, that's how it all unfolds. But we want to be accurate. We'd rather not bite off more than we can chew. But as Chair Taylor said, we don't want to fund, the fund balance to keep growing. So it's kind of that blend. You're welcome.
Any other questions from commissioners? Well, thank you, Director Post.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next on any other items, we got something else, but first we got interview questions for incumbents. Commissioner Travis, did you want to take that?
Sure, thank you, Chair. So Board Appointments Committee, while some of our interviews come here to the full board, the Board Appointments Committee handles the vast majority of interviews and re-interviews for our advisory committees. And we're just looking to sort of improve both efficiency and effectiveness of that process. Some of the questions that are sort of on the standard application are a bit redundant for incumbents. Like, what do you know about this advisory board, for example, when they're already serving on it? So we wanted to streamline them and refine them a little bit. I did have from what's presented in the packet, and perhaps my committee members can help me with this. I believe it's question number 4 was partially changed, but I think our intention was to strike that question entirely. Let me pull it open here a second. Yeah, so we had taken some of the language from item 4 and moved it into question 3. And then I think our intention was to completely strike out the rest of item 4, bringing us down to just, I think it's 6 questions overall. I don't know if Commissioner DeLu or Vice Chair Ray. My apologies to put you on the spot there.
That's question 4. How will you use what you have learned in your work with this advisory board authority? Striking that question.
Yeah, because the question initially related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but we've just sort of combined the intent of that into question 3. Vice Chair Ray, does that sound like it rings a bell to you? So that will be the only other additional consideration. And I'm sorry, Commissioner Kistler, I should have asked you too. You're on our committee. Is that your recollection to Commissioner Kistler? My apologies.
I believe I'm with you on this. The question I would have is, I thought we were at the point where incumbents did not necessarily need to be re-interviewed if they desired to be reappointed. Is that the case still?
So and perhaps administration can help me with this. It's if they are an incumbent and there are no other applicants, there's the potential to not have them interview. But I think we also want to open an opportunity for new perspectives or new people to participate while we value incumbents. So if there are other interested candidates that they interview and we consider additional applicants as well. Administration, did I get it straight? If you can help me.
Yes, so this allows for that option for if you would like to interview the incumbent, there may be some circumstances where y'all choose to move forward with the incumbent without the interview, but if you choose to interview them, as the Board Appointments Committee has discussed of having questions that feel a little bit more relevant to the term that they have previously served and getting responses on that.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
I certainly have no problem with these. If any commissioners have problems with revising these questions for incumbents. I do have a quick question. If there are applicants that apply for a board, let's say, and there's 2 openings and only one incumbent applies, do we just appoint that incumbent and then look for the second opening, or do we how does that usually traditionally work?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it is sort of at the discretion of the Board Appointments Committee. So when we have a number of applicants, which is at or not more than double the number of vacancies. So if we have 2 vacancies and there are 2 applicants, 3 applicants, or 4 applicants, we'll interview all of them. But more than that, we will pare it down. So we will interview up to 2 times the vacancies. If there are not enough applicants for the number of vacancies at hand, then we can, sometimes we choose to interview and appoint. Sometimes we choose to repost and wait. Sometimes, depending on the cycle, there may be someone who turned an application in while the agenda was prepared. So it's sort of at discretion.
And if they're vacant, or if their term expires and there hasn't been anybody appointed, the current person still is in that seat, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And we also usually confer with administration if the number of vacancies is having an impact on quorum or other issues where they need to be more urgently filled.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from commissioners? I kind of got a little bit off topic. But... Okay, any other items? Commissioner Morales, you had something.
Thank you, Chair. Trying to see if we can add a proclamation. Do I just read it?
Read it. Does it need to be today's date, or did you want to just read it for the next meeting, or is this time sensitive? Or
It is time sensitive because when is our next meeting? Is it before August 5th or
it's August 1st?
the
August
2nd?
1st. I thought it was 1st. No, election day is the 8th.
Our meeting will be August 2nd.
August 2nd. Okay.
Okay, so no, I can wait if we can do it by August. Wait.
Okay. Well,
That
can
sound
you
good.
read it this time for the,
Yeah.
that way it goes to the regular process?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay, so this is for the Mothers of Hope Recovery is Possible Day. Whereas Gwen Lanier and Dolores D. Johnson were both mothers who suffered from addiction to drugs and alcohol, who lost everything, including their ability to effectively care for their children. But with a great deal of help from people like Dr. Michael Levman, Reverend Dr. Otha Gilliard, and places like Safe House, they both began the difficult road to recovery. And whereas they learned that they could lean on and rely on God, aftercare, recovery meetings and programs, and one another to face each day without drugs, excuse me. Whereas nationwide, drug-related deaths in the last 13 years rose from 21,000 to over 47,000 and remains steady as there has been a significant increase with over 80,000 reported overdose deaths. It is with these statistics that in Mothers of Hope's vision is to restore communities impacted by trauma, systematic inequities, and substance abuse disorders. Whereas the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners wishes to honor and celebrate Mothers of Hope 25th anniversary with a greater community to highlight this day, will honor and pay tribute to all for their contributions to our community. Whereas the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners recognizes the significant contributions of Mothers of Hope and numerous grassroots leaders and outreach groups that help increase cultural awareness, education, enrichment, and community engagement with county residents. It is through their support and community involvement that Kalamazoo County has continued to become more culturally diverse and a welcoming county for everyone. And whereas the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners is committed to recognizing Mothers of Hope as an important part of the Kalamazoo County community and a strong, inclusive community, now therefore be it recognized annually on the 5th of August, Mothers of Hope Recovery Day, Recovery is Possible Day. Be it resolved that Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim August 5th as Mothers of Hope Recovery is Possible Day. Call its observance to all county residents.
Okay, and that'll be printed out and will be at our
Yeah.
7 o'clock meeting at the next one, and we'll vote on that. This
Yeah,
is just the
thank
first
you.
reading. Commissioner Gissler.
Yes, I appreciate that clarification, but so that is nowhere in this folder nor online at this point.
No, I got this information today, and that's why I asked if it was time sensitive, if we could do it, read it today. And so that way everybody would have a chance to have a copy to read before the next meeting, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we're not taking any action on this today. Commissioner, Vice Chair Ray.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Morales. I feel like I heard you read substance abuse disorder. If you can change it to substance use disorder. Abuse to use. Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, now we've got, who has the motion to go into closed session?
So I move the board goes into closed session as permitted by the Michigan Open Meetings Act for the following reasons. One, for strategy and negotiation session connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement as requested by the county board pursuant to MCL 15.2681C. And two, to consider the purchase or lease of real property pursuant to MCL 15.2681D.
Is there support? Motion made and support by Commissioner DeLu. Clerk Cox, will you please take roll?
Commissioner DeLu,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hepler is absent. Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales, Vice Chair Ray, Commissioner Strebs,
Yes.
Chair Taylor,
Yes.
7 yes.
And put sugar in it.
All right, I'm going to call the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners regular meeting, July 18th, 2023 to order. Giving tonight's invocation reflection is Vice Chair Tammy Ray.
Thank you, Chair. I have invited Pastor Lindsay E. Bell of First United Baptist Church to do the prayer, and then Commissioner Stubbs will lead you all in the pledge.
Oh, now let us pray. God, our Heavenly Father, maker and creator of all that is good and perfect, the giver of life, we thank you now for leadership, for you have ordained governments. But we thank you, you just didn't establish them and leave them alone. As you guided Moses when he led the children of Israel out of Egypt, you guided David to reunite the kingdom. You have the heart of the king. And so we pray for these that you have placed in order to watch over our city, to watch over the affairs of every citizen. We thank you for a discerning spirit, that as they make judgments and decisions, that they not forget about who it is that they are covering and who it is that they are in charge of. Thank you that they will remember your people are special to you, and that you will hold those in authority accountable for the decisions that they make. So we pray that you would lead them with your wisdom, guide them with your heart of love, that this may be a wonderful place that everyone can thrive and achieve greatness. It's in Jesus' name that we pray and we thank you. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk Cox, would you please take roll?
Commissioner DeLu,
Here.
Commissioner Gisler,
Here.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler, Commissioner Mazer. Here. Commissioner Morales. Is here. somewhere. Vice Chair Ray,
Present.
Commissioner Stubbs,
Here.
Chair Taylor,
Here.
and Commissioner Wheeler is absent, so 8 present.
And Commissioner Wheeler informed me she got called into work today, so she will not be able to attend. Excused, as many of us did, excused absence. Next up is proclamations, which we have none. Communications. Commissioner Ray, will you, or Vice Chair Ray, will you take us through the communications, please?
Sure, we have 2 communications. The first is a letter from Alliance of Leaders in Public Service at Western Michigan University, informing the county that it provides opportunities for students to further develop their interests and experience of public and nonprofit administration. And then the second is a notice from Cooper Township Zoning Board of Appeals. They will hold a public hearing to consider a variance.
Thank you. The chair knows of no other communications. Next, we have approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the July 5th, 2023 Committee of the Whole and regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler, supported by Commissioner Stubbs. And all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Approval of agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Commissioner Stubbs.
My apologies. I have a item I needed removed from the consent agenda. I'm so sorry. I had it. Oh, goodness, I'm so sorry. Just a moment. Thank you. I found it. I need the number. There we go. I'm sorry. If I could remove item 2023-6388. It's an intergovernmental contract with Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health. That could be pulled and moved to non-consent.
Sure thing. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of the intergovernmental contract with Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health to be moved to non-consent agenda. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next up, we have public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners. Please give us your name and address, and you have up to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening. My name is Ann Cooper, and I live in Portage, Michigan. The purpose of my public comment is to voice my strong opposition to funding the YWCA Kalamazoo Reproductive Health Grant request, which is being considered in the 2024 budget process. If funded, this program intends to use 100,000 of our precious taxpayer dollars to fund abortions and gender-affirming care. As you know, the YWCA has already spent $43,900 of our taxpayer funds in 2022 to pay for abortions and gender care under this program. This year, I propose that our dollars be allocated to support worthy pro-life causes, such as funding pregnancy resource centers, or funding adoption services, or funding YWCA services for victims of human trafficking. Recently, we celebrated the 4th of July, our Independence Day, and our country's birthday. This holiday commemorates the passage of our Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress on July 4th, 1776, and states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." To spend taxpayer dollars to take the lives of preborn citizens of our country, lives which our Declaration of Independence states are given by God, is, I believe, utterly contrary to the Judeo-Christian principles on which our country and our system of government is founded. July 3rd, 2023 was the 160th anniversary of the victory of the Union forces at the Battle of Gettysburg, the turning point of the American Civil War. Thousands of lives were sacrificed to preserve our government and the protections and freedoms which it provides for all its citizens. We today are called to continue to uphold this union and government and the life-protecting principles upon which our founders built this great nation and our great state of Michigan. A CRC research poll from August 2022 found that 74% of Americans support funding pregnancy centers, including 78% of Republicans and 73% of Democrats. The American public has made its wishes clear. Please consider allocating 100,000 of our precious taxpayer dollars to pay for life-affirming services for the citizens of our county in 2024. This time, let's fund pro-life pregnancy centers, adoption services, and the YWCA Women's Shelter Services for Human Trafficking Victims. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens wishing to address the board? Can you advise if there are any hands raised or pre-recorded calls?
Yes, Chair, we have one pre-recorded call and Dina will play it now.
I'm Jeanette Rubinsky calling from Kalamazoo County. Please play this message at both the 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. meetings of the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, July 18. As you prepare for the off-site budget retreat scheduled for July 25, I would like to remind you that I strongly oppose giving any money to the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund. They are asking for $100,000 of taxpayer money to increase access to abortion, artificial contraception, gender-affirming care, and doula care. My reasons for opposing this funding are as follows. First, abortion proponents often use the viability argument for justifying the procedure. Just because the fetus cannot survive outside of the mother's womb, they think it's okay to kill it. They fail to acknowledge the fact that lack of fetal viability is a temporary condition. Let's suppose for a moment that a member of your immediate family were in a temporary coma and was connected to all kinds of tubes and machines without which that person would die. Would you ask the doctors to disconnect everything, let the person die, dismember it, and incinerate the parts as medical waste? I think not. Abortion is wrong for the same reason. Second is the subject of artificial contraception. I'm against it because of religious beliefs. For people who want it, it's already available through the Kalamazoo County Department of Health Family Planning Program, funded by Title $10. There's no need to spend more money to duplicate those services. Third is the subject of gender-affirming care. The average human body is made up of approximately 100 trillion cells. At birth, each cell has either 2 X chromosomes if the child is female, or 1 X chromosome and 1 Y chromosome if the child is male. That never changes, not even with cross-sex hormone treatment or gender reassignment surgery. Transgender people sometimes say that they were born in the wrong body. I know that their distress is real, but what do you think the statistical probability is that all 100 trillion cells within any given human body are wrong? Perhaps their gender dysphoria is an emotional problem, which should be treated on an emotional level instead of on a physical level. I don't want my tax dollars spent on abortion, artificial contraception, or gender-affirming care. Please do not give any money to the YWCA Reproductive Health Fund now, in 2024, or at any point thereafter. Thank you.
Chair, we have no hands raised.
No answers. Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us into consent agenda. Vice Chair Ray, will you take us through transfers and disbursements and consent agenda, please?
Sure. I feel like this one gets voted on separately, but maybe not. Okay, okay. Recommendations for approval of transfers and disbursements. 2023-6461, request for approval of accounts payable and payroll disbursements. Under Board of Commissioners, we have 2023-6404, request for approval of an opioid settlement funding allocation to support the creation of 2 positions. 2023-6432, request for approval of interview questions for incumbents applying to serve on bodies. 2023-6463, request to authorize the board chair to sign all closing documents related to the sale and purchase of real property described in the purchase agreement between the county and Catalyst Development Company, LLC, the event center, including but not limited to the parking agreement that will address the parking needs of West Michigan Cancer Center and terminate the county's existing irrevocable license with West Michigan Cancer Center according to its terms. 2023-6469, request for approval of resolution to establish compensation for Kalamazoo County board bodies. Under Finance, 2023-6464, excuse me, request for approval and signature and notice of rescission of land and resource use restrictions at 1226 Lamont Avenue. 2023-6466, request for approval of various budget adjustments and transfers, housekeeping, health and community services. 2023-6362, request for approval of a temporary position creation. Under housing, 2023-6377, request for approval and signature of the grant agreement with Live Foundation, a nonprofit housing corporation, from the housing millage multifamily category for $1 million. 2023-6390, request for approval and signature of the grant agreement with the city of Portage from the housing millage rehab single family category for $224,210. 2023-6391, request for approval of signature of a grant agreement with the city of Portage from the Housing Millage Rehab Single Family category for $100,000. 2023-6402, request for approval and signature of a grant agreement with Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services from the Housing Millage Rehab Single Family category for $225,000, subject to final approval as to form by corporate counsel. 2023-6409, request for approval and signature of a grant agreement with Community Homeworks from the Housing Millage Rehab Single Family category for $225,000. 2023-6396, request for approval and signature of a grant agreement with Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services from the Housing Millage Supportive Service category for $200,000, subject to final approval as to form by corporate counsel. 2023-6403, request for approval and signature of a grant agreement with Kalamazoo Housing Advocates from the Housing Millage Supportive Service category for $75,000, subject to final approval as to form by corporate counsel. 2023-6401, request for one, approval and signature of the grant agreement with Kalamazoo Neighborhood Housing Services from the Housing Millage Single Family category for $600,000, and two, approval of advance payment request in the amount of $100,000, subject to final approval as to form by Corporation Council. Under the Sheriff, 2023-6379, request for approval of and signature on the purchase quote with Tech 84 Intercept Whole Body Scanner in Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, subject to final approval as to form by Corporation Council. I move that the consent agenda items be voted on at one time by a roll call vote and be considered as the consent agenda by the board.
There's a motion and support. Clerk Cox, will you please take roll?
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales, Vice Chair Ray,
Yes.
Commissioner Strebs,
Yes.
Chair Taylor,
Yes,
Commissioner DeLu,
Yes.
8 yes.
that was fast and good. Next, unfinished business and general orders. That would probably be the item E, or I don't have the number in front of me. I'm on agendas, not packets. But are you prepared to make that motion, Commissioner Strabs, or prefer not to? Okay.
All right, we got 2023-6388, request for approval of an intergovernmental contract with Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health.
There's a motion and support. Commissioner Strabs.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to articulate, there is not a conflict of interest, but I am an employee of Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health. So just to avoid the appearance of a conflict, I will be abstaining from this particular vote.
Understood. Clerk Cox, will you please take roll?
Vice Chair Hepler.
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales, Vice Chair Ray,
Yes.
Commissioner Strebs is abstaining, Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wheeler is absent, Commissioner DeLu,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
6 yes and 1 abstention.
That takes us all the way down to new business non-consent. Item V, Commissioner DeLu, do you want to read the request for approval of the Kalamazoo County Sheriff Supervisor Association Letter of Understanding? Or? Yeah. I think we have to do them one at a time.
Okay, this is motion 1 to request to ratify the package, the ratified prepackaged proposal, or pre-ratified package proposal, I'm sorry. I move that the board ratify the County of Kalamazoo, the Sheriff's Office of the County of Kalamazoo, and the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Sergeants Association Union pre-ratified package proposal dated June 14th, 2023, and ratified by the union on June 21st, 2023, and authorize the board chair to sign the successor collective bargaining agreement upon approval as to the form by Labor Council.
There is a motion and support. Any discussion? Clerk Cox, will you please take roll?
Commissioner Mazer,
Yes.
Commissioner Morales, Vice Chair Ray, Commissioner Strebs,
Yes.
Chair Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner DeLu,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hepler,
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Next is request for approval of Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Supervisors Association. Somebody want to make that motion, or can I just Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler?
Thank you, Chair. I move that the board approve the letter of agreement between the County of Kalamazoo, the Sheriff's Office of the County of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Supervisors Association, KCSSA, and signed by KCSSA and the Sheriff's Office on May 30th, 2023.
Is there support? There's a motion and supported by Commissioner DeLu. Any discussion? Clerk, Commissioner Gissler.
Yes, since this was done in closed session and Jeff wasn't available yet, is it okay for him to make the motion?
He's probably more familiar with it than I am, but seeing as how he has his background in law enforcement, but Commissioner Hepler, I see no reason.
I'll go with corporate counsel. She's going to say grace over it. Oh, sorry.
There we go. Chair Taylor, Commissioner Gissler, he most certainly can make the motion. That's no problem, as long as he feels sufficiently informed about the matter.
I believe that he is.
That's what I get for trying to read Robert's Rules of Order when we're on the fly.
No problem. Any other discussion? Clerk Cox, will you please take roll?
Commissioner Morales. Yes. Vice Chair Ray. Commissioner Stress.
Yes.
Chair Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner DeLu.
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler.
Yes.
Vice Chair Hepler.
Yes.
Commissioner Mazer.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, that motion passes. Next, we have, I think we're already into public comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners, and give us your name and address, and you have up to 3 minutes. Thank you. Seeing none, are there any hands raised?
There are no hands raised.
Now we're into reports of officer bodies and administrator controller. I'll just talk briefly. Commissioner Mazer made it apparent that I owe an apology to the Texas Township Supervisor for misspeaking about a floodplain. I misspoke. It was not in a floodplain. That was one of the comments I made about Texas Township. That being said, we did receive a $2.1 million grant from the state of Michigan that was appropriated to that project. In keeping with our 12% policy, I would expect that 12% after the project is done was reduced by 2.1 million. That 12% would come back to the county, as well as all the citizens, as well as Texas Township as well. Look forward to the budget retreat that's coming up. I think we're going to have some good, discussions on a lot of different things, from not just expenditures, but revenues as well. One of the other things that I think we can work on at our next meeting, and I'll bring this up at our next leadership meeting, is a process to sort of maybe more open up the opioid discussions as we get more money that's coming in, have more availability for public input, have more opportunity for the folks that are going to be applying for that or going to be seeking those funds, that the rules are clear and that everything's set out in line. Now, we did 2 positions tonight that were absolutely needed. They were extremely necessary. We also did tonight, we approved the finally the sale, although we've been in negotiations for a long time, of Catalyst with Catalyst University for the new arena downtown. That's going to, and I've said it before, it's going to be transformational, what it's going to do to the downtown Kalamazoo, along with the opportunities that we're doing ourselves for parking. I think we're moving this county forward, in a good direction. And a lot of that has to go with, leadership, our staff. Look, Kevin is a much deserved vacation, and he's got 2 competent people stepping in right there. And the train's still gonna, yeah, the train's still running on time. So I appreciate that. With that being said, I would be remiss. I think my son Bo is probably still up for another 6 minutes. So good night, Bo. Vice Chair Ray.
Okay, so I'm gonna really be brief. Want to say thank you again to Pastor Bell for coming out and praying for us tonight. And also just want to invite commissioners and the community out this Saturday. There is a gun violence resource and resilience rally from 3 to 6 o'clock PM in Rockwell Park. The address is 1106 Trimble Street on the east side of the city, if you all are interested in attending. That's all I have. Thanks.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler.
Thank you, Chair. My apologies for being late as we got a lot of emergencies that happened today in our county. Brings me to my usual speech that we need to thank those people that are out there trying to protect us and serve the police, the fire, the ambulance folks. Our medical staffs have been going crazy today. You'd think it was a Monday or something. If you see them out, please take a moment to thank them. It's very trying. We're trying to protect the public. We got 270,000 people in this county, plus all those that come by to visit and shop and work and play in our county. And we have to work very diligently to keep them as safe as we possibly can and do everything we can. And our people are doing that in just amazing amount of work that's being put upon them to do. And so take a minute to tell them thanks when you see them out there. We need to also keep in mind our backbone of our community is our staff, our people working at the road department, here at this building, and all of our other county facilities and all the other cities and villages and township facilities, trying to do the work to keep us safe, provide good services to our citizens. They deserve some acknowledgement. So if you could keep them in your prayers and also thank them when you see them. Our military folks are out there constantly having to keep us safe. So take a moment to thank them when you see them out and about. We've had a number of committees that are going on. Our emergency management folks been working overtime on preparing us for these emergencies and helping to keep us all safe. We have many committees and they're out there doing the same thing, working to keep us safe and looking at the different aspects of the things that are endangering our staff and our people, PFAS and many other things, as well as trying to get our roads and our infrastructure in good order so that they keep us all safe and moving around as we need to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrators, do you both want to have a crack at it?
Yes, good evening. We do have a report on behalf of Administrator Catlin tonight. Just a few things to cover and I'll go first. The fair is still in need of volunteers to help out during the event on Saturday, August 12th. We encourage folks who not only are involved in volunteering for the 4-H that day to please consider signing up for a shift. The fair is looking for a number of different volunteers for different tasks from about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Ideally, they'd like to schedule people for about a 3-hour time slot, but I think that they would be flexible with whatever anyone can provide. Any questions can be directed to park staff, Mandy Eldred, and she would be happy to discuss those opportunities. As the chair has already reminded everyone, but the budget retreat is scheduled for next Tuesday at 4 p.m. and that will be at the Expo Center. For the Board of Commissioners, please let the board leadership know by July 21st if you're interested in serving on the Justice Center's Art Committee. This would be a public subcommittee of the board and meetings would be open to the public. We need a maximum of 2 commissioners. This is the, just for background information, this is for exterior building art. Exterior building art will be completed sometime in the spring of next year. The Kalamazoo Public Arts Council will likely facilitate the discussions and process. Jerry Vanderveen is in the process of speaking with them to encourage their participation. We will have 2 representatives from the courts, a representative from administration, our architect, Jerry Vanderveen, and possibly a B&G representative. Two additional items I would like to add on is that our American Rescue Plan website is now up and live. We've had it previously, but our PIO has been working hard to get more of the information on there and make it also more visually appealing. So I encourage people to take a look at that, and it's for our community to know where we are on not only what we've allocated, but what has also been expensed. And then earlier this week, I shared that KNHS flyer for their open house and ribbon cutting that's going to be in Portage this Wednesday, July 19th from 12 to 2. And this will be our first completed house with the Housing for All millage.
And I'll be even briefer. Just as a reminder, the CIP meeting again is on Friday at 9 a.m. So look forward to seeing the commissioners' representatives at that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And as Vice Chair Pro Tem Hepler reminded me, we got to make sure we don't come in off Lake Street. I made that mistake actually the other day. So come in from behind because of the construction on. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I missed that sign. It was not big enough. Okay, Chair, Commissioner DeLue, do you start with you?
Two things. First of all, I have to apologize for my ignorance in this matter, but I remembered now I was supposed to point out a conflict of interest I had tonight after Ms. Strebs brought hers up. In the disbursements, once again, the airport wrote a check to the Kalamazoo Fraternal Order of Police for $100. Now, this is for a golf outing. It's not actually for the Fraternal Order of Police. It's the Ryan Proxmire golf outing, the deputy who was killed a couple of years ago. So every penny of that will go to the golf outing, which basically pays for individuals to go to the police academy. So it's under the name of the FOP, but the FOP really isn't financially benefiting from that. And we appreciate the contribution. And secondly, I think it was just last week, the Integrated Services of Kalamazoo opened up their new facility on West Kalamazoo Avenue. And I can tell you as a police officer that police officers run into people every day with mental, I guess, disabilities is the best way to put it. And the hospitals have been overwhelmed. And I don't know if the citizens realize what a tremendous asset this is going to be to the community. And we are so fortunate to have the funding to have a facility such as this. And it's going to be honestly a great help to the community and to the people that need the help. And I was also learned this week that I think it was State Rep Julie Rogers was able to obtain $500,000 in additional funding to help staff that facility. I think maybe for the next 2 years, I'm totally talking third hand here, I'm not sure, but I know they have at least that much for the first year. And they will be opening 24 hours a day, which again is going to be just, you know, when you deal with these people every day, it's just such a great option. And I hope the community understands it and appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Gissler.
I hate to start off by correcting the chair, but I assume that all these comments at the end of the meetings are reflected in the minutes. And maybe I heard it wrong, but I thought you thanked Catalyst University for the expo or the event center rather than Catalyst Development.
I don't know, but I'm going to go back through the minutes. Let the record show that I meant Catalyst Development.
I just wanted you to know I was hanging on your every word.
Well, it's nice to know that somebody is.
Now go hang yourself, right? I have three things to mention. One, and these are repeats, I think, in some cases. The Conservation District is hosting a Next Generation of Ag. That's the title of the tour on August 18th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Lunch is included. And the tour will visit 4 or 5 different places that will explain a lot of ag detail to those of us, and I include myself in this, that aren't farmers and don't know that much about farming. All my food comes from Myers, I think, or Sam's Club. I do have some information about from the Conservation District concerning their last scrap tire pickup. That's coming up on August 8th, I think. Yes, because that's when the youth fair starts. So their last pickup will be in Scotts at Perkins Tire Company. And by all means, contact the Conservation District first, because the 2 they've already had this year of tire pickups and the one they had last year for ag tires, big tractor tires and stuff. If you didn't register and say you're coming and bringing, about how many tires, they don't have room for you. It's very popular. And finally, excuse me, I sat in on the road commission meeting a la Zoom today, and the new building is coming along well. There are a few snags here and there, but they expect to have the salt building, which I think is the farthest one back away from 26th Street, ready to go when the first salt delivery arrives sometime around the middle of August. That's the one thing that they say, we got to have that one done. And so it's running a little bit ahead of schedule maybe, or at least a little bit ahead of the other major structures out there. And on the 12th of this month, they closed 26th Street. And it's not just, one lane, it's closed because they're putting the sewer in for that whole complex. And it'll be only in the south half or so of 26th Street that fronts the road commission's new structures. And at some point in the not too distant future, they'll reverse that after they've got the sewer laid on the south half. They'll shut it down and start doing it from the north side. So it's going to be, a scramble. And if you're in the habit now of driving 26th Street, and I was for a while, it's like Lake Street, make some other arrangements, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazer.
I would like to thank you, Chair Taylor, excuse me, for your comments about Texas Township and making that correction. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Morales.
Thank you, Chair. First, I want to thank my colleague, Vice Chair Ray. I thought I was going to die up here. She brought me some coffee and we're getting out in 30 minutes. So I'm not going to hold anybody. Thank you, Pastor Bell, for your prayer. And then have a good night.
Commissioner Shrebs.
Thank you. So just congratulate this whole board. We made a finalization of contracts for a number of housing developments tonight. We're doing important work in the community with our community partners, and we're also really excited to see these things continue to grow and turn into reality. I wanted to touch base and offer some praise and clarification for Deputy Administrator Warner has continued to lead the beginning of the process for the sort of discussions with the community around the opioid settlement funds. And I want to assure the board that we'll have a very robust community process. We allocated last time community needs assessment funds, and there's been in-depth work occurring with MSU to develop sort of the guiding questions and a huge and growing list of community partners and organizations that'll be engaged in discussion to help us figure out how we get our hands out into the community and reach by survey, by focus group, by direct interviews, as many people in the community as possible. So we will, hopefully we will touch hundreds of people and receive that sort of data to help drive our decision-making. So kudos to Deputy Warner, Deputy Administrator, and all of that work. And she'll continue at it, I'm sure. I look forward to what we get accomplished there. Thank you to Pastor Bell for being here with us tonight, and thank you to the board.
And I got to give a shout out to Commissioner Purdell, who stayed for the whole meeting. Thank you very much, City Commissioner. All right, with that, we are adjourned.